Yo. Oh, Jesus.
Simo.
It was that was a very loud cough.
Ooh.
It was the first thing that we recorded.
Nice. He was all gillied up.
It was all gillied up. So we are back, baby doll.
We are back.
We are back to talk about
something that, there was enough buzz around this movie when it came out that was like, it's mid.
It's mid.
And that we waited long enough after the release for me to walking in expecting mid.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue with this movie.
And I got mid.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's fine.
I didn't want mid, but I got mid.
It's fine. I'm okay with mid every once in a while. But I think the fact that this was supposed to be big. Right? This is Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott's one of the big guys, right? People always talk about Ridley Scott in a very
positive way.
Mm-hmm. And it's fine, but I feel like this movie, while not bad, I was never underwhelmed. I was very much whelmed. I don't know about you. I don't know if you feel whelmed.
I was whiplashed. I was never put to sleep. I was disappointed.
I think it's fair to, or not. I think it's ethical to tell our millions of viewers what we're watching. We're watching Napoleon. We missed the first 5 minutes.
Yes, we did. But those 5 minutes should not have done as big of a heavy lifting. As apparently they may have did.
If the first 5 minutes of your movie, I think we discussed this on the way home. Yeah. If the first 5 minutes of your movie do so much heavy lifting that it would raise a 2-star movie to 5 stars, then something is wrong with the balance of your movie.
Correct.
So I don't think we missed anything super drastic. I think we missed a few cool shots.
I think we missed that Reign of Terror shot, which I'm presuming that was, what's her name? Marie Antoinette in the trailer. The blonde lady who was being led to the guillotine.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. That was weird. I bent down into the microphone.
Javi is itching his titty right now.
I am.
I also love itching my titties.
I bent my neck down right into the microphone and it spiked.
Did you know Napoleon actually said that?
Huh?
Did you know Napoleon actually said that one day?
What?
I really love itching my titties.
I really love itching my titties. I believe it.
Yeah.
This fucking man is a delinquent.
He didn't, but he's not. Okay, we just did Gremlins. He doesn't deserve the title delinquent.
Delinquent.
Those gremlins are delinquent.
But he's like a little rat. One of the podcasts that I heard reviewing this movie, they were like, he's like a little rat man. And I'm like, yeah.
And that's the whole...
He kind of is.
Yeah.
We
get Napoleon complex, right? That shouldn't be surprising.
I guess, but when I think of a Napoleon complex, it's you're overcompensating. But nothing in this movie made me feel like he was overcompensating. It made me feel like he was weird.
Nothing in this movie made me feel a lot of things.
And that's just weird because cinema is supposed to help us feel things, right? Experience things. I think the big problem
as a certain actress would remind us every time we go to the theater.
We go to the theater.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
Not this time because we didn't see it at an AMC.
No,
We saw it at Goodrich. We paid. We paid out of pocket.
We paid to see this movie,
which is fine.
Yeah.
So this movie follows the life of Napoleon.
That's a very loose.
That's
a very loose phrase.
Fair.
Yes.
So it really follows his claim to power.
Follows the IEP kid in our team follows directions from his teacher's aide.
Jesus Christ. It's such a weird, I don't know, the thing I feel about this movie the most is it's just weird that it feels aimless.
Yes.
There's a lot of threats in this movie that I feel could have been followed a little bit better, could have led to something. And I think this movie, and I know I put this in the outline, this movie should have been from Josephine's point of view, I think. Because the movie feels like it wants you to...
It's the last word in the synopsis, is Josephine.
It's Josephine.
Yeah.
It's also... throughout the movie, you hear letters that he's sending to Josephine.
Right.
But at the same time, like, so it makes you feel like Josephine's this big deal.
Yeah.
But she's like kind of thrown in the back.
Yes, she's artificially brought. She either artificially brought to the forefront, or like her characterization is just not done what it needs to be. I feel for this movie, and I have plenty to say about Josephine later. I feel like I wonder if this is a movie that I needed to do research on before entering, because like I kind of went into this. Why I was excited for this movie was I didn't actually know much about Napoleon. Like my European history part of high school was like there was the American Revolution, and people were like, "That's a good idea." And remember that Enlightenment shit in France? Well, they were like, "Let's do this," and then it was bloody. And then the Reign of Terror, and then we moved on to the next unit on whatever that was. And they're like, oh yeah, and Napoleon happened somewhere. So I didn't know a lot about Napoleon, but I don't feel like I left this movie
knowing more.
Whereas I feel like if you watch a movie like The Big Short, you could go into that with very little knowledge on the subject matter of the 2008 financial crisis. And you leave that movie and you're like, got it, I understand. Now, drastically different movies, but I do not feel like I learned a lot about Napoleon.
But then here's also the thing. The fact that you felt the need to say, I feel like I should have researched more coming into this movie is a problem.
Yes.
Because the movie should show you these things, should teach you these things. And this movie just feels like it's like showing you like snapshots of this thing, but nothing feels
correct. That's
important.
my problem. I don't feel like I came away better understanding the subject matter. And it's not to say that there's like here, we both loved Follow the House of Usher.
Yeah.
I feel like my experience knowing a lot of Poe going into it was like enriching the show. But I still was able to like, get what was going on without it. But like I feel like I don't as well understand Napoleon. I don't understand Napoleon's motivations that much more than I did going into this. I don't really understand the key moments of his life. Like I don't even understand what Ridley Scott really thought of Napoleon.
Which is what a fucking idea, by the way. What a take on this character.
Yeah.
Because like, if I'm making a movie about a man, you either have to come to it from 2 points of view. Mm-hmm. You either love the person and you want to show like why people should love them, or you hate this person
and you're like, fuck them.
You're like, fuck them, this is why they suck.
Or you could do they're morally gray, but then you have to be like,
kind of.
You have to like the white and the black and the morally gray have to be very like elevated.
Yes.
Like so you see the clash.
But this is neither.
Yeah.
This can you say neither when it's three things?
Not
right.
Technically, none of the above.
But it's not that. This movie tells you that Napoleon is this great leader, this tactician.
He's bad guy.
he's a fucking like force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, but you don't see it.
You don't see it. Like what does he? And again, maybe this is something that we would have learned in the first 5 minutes, but I don't think so. What does he do in this movie that's superior to everybody, with the exception of like the lake scene,
which is a great scene,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
but
a great
everything
scene.
else in this movie, I just feel like he's like, he's good at cannons.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I saw anything here that was like that I felt like, oh, they're showing me that this is something that's never been done before.
And yet the movie is also not taking the argument, this is a man who was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. It's also not saying, oh, we think he was so great. He thinks he was so great. But in reality, he was just a product of his circumstances. It's not even like taking that clear angle.
We do see that, I guess, in the movie. Like he does, I don't want to say he fails his way upward, but he's like at the right place at the right time, I feel like.
But the movie doesn't like conscientiously like make that like
no, it does not.
Point, yeah,
it does not. Should they?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think
that's the point of these biopics. You're telling a story in order to make a point, right? And like for being like, I mean, people back then like apparently like there are people who thought Napoleon was the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I really don't like seeing this. I don't see what makes him that different from like his peers at the time.
Yeah.
Like people are like, look how brutal he was. He sent his men into battle. I'm
So
like,
did everybody else.
that was the thing.
Also, that was at the end of the movie, right? At the end
Yeah.
of the movie, it ends with like them showing you a flashcard of like the battles that he was in.
I hated this. Yes.
The battles he was in, and like the men that he sent out to war who died. But I'm pretty sure if you compare that to the people that he was fighting, it's gotta be equivalent, if not worse.
Well, I'm not going to pretend I will know the comparative numbers, but like that, you sent your men out. Like that's what it was. Like you sent your men out to die. And that's not a good thing, right? But like that doesn't make him different than every other like, you know, military or state leader during the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing. I think I am significantly less interested in watching any more wartime movies about this era. Because, so we watched, long time ago, you watched 1917.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie.
Hi, yeah, you better not say that's from this era.
No. But what I'm saying is like that's where we start to see like the shift in like the styles of war. Like you still have people like basically facing each other, and you go pew pew and pew pew.
Yeah.
Right. But you don't have like the more tactical like infiltrations that you have today.
Yeah.
Right, where things can feel more exciting.
Yeah.
This is just two massive blocks of people facing each other, taking a few steps. You go pew. Few of them fall down. You take a few more steps. It's visually very boring.
It is boring. I do like that it played a little bit with tactics for like cavalry,
kind of
cannons,
but they don't do enough to make it feel exciting.
And they don't. It's interesting because that's a common critique or a question that because we weren't alive back then, we just cannot, and we have modern guns. We just cannot inherently get why the American Revolution was like, let's all line up. Let's all walk towards each other.
Yeah.
And let's shoot.
Right?
It's
so dumb.
But it was like that for a reason.
Yeah.
And I feel like part of what this movie could have been is it could have like enlightened the populace of like, this is why like tactics were like this at this point.
I really like, there was one scene, I know we're like all over the place and I don't give a fuck.
Well, this movie's fucking all over the place in terms of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What
30 years can happen.
It was nuts. Anyway, there is that one scene. It's before Waterloo. They're on their way to. I want to say this is when they're like marching towards Russia.
In Moscow.
And I think before they get to Moscow, they're like on this path, and like you have
mortars.
Like the mortars from the opposite army, and they get ambushed, and the people are going into the trees hiding.
Yeah.
And the people from Napoleon's army are like, what the fuck do we do? Because like that's not how they're used to fighting.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really cool scene, but it's so short.
Yes.
I kind of would have wished that scene had been extended.
Yes.
To show something different than like the fighting.
Yeah. Scenes in this come and go, like French lovers in a cheap motel.
Here's the thing. I really do like Vanessa Kirby a lot.
Yep.
I think she's great. She's a beautiful actress. I feel like, and again, why I said that this movie should have focused on her, because I feel like she's underused.
She doesn't have agency in this movie.
There's nothing in here that shows me or makes me feel like, one, she's a villain or she's like a tragic figure.
Right.
Because like if she wanted to make her like someone who's power hungry and wanted to use Napoleon for the clout, you could have done that.
Which it starts off with.
And that's what I thought they were going with.
And you think that dynamic's going to persist, but it does not.
Doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? You have the whole thing where like her having like a fling and a fair, and then he comes back, he pouts, he does his thing.
Yeah.
He like scolds her.
And she kicks her out.
She breaks down
right away.
And like there's like a follow-up scene where he's like telling her like, you're nothing without me, you're trash. And then like the next scene it's her saying it to him, and she sounds like she's commanding him.
And there's no thread whatsoever.
And you're like, is this scene happening the same night?
Right.
The follow is this years apart?
Right.
It was baffling. To me. But then like later on, like she sticks around. She's getting the money, she's living comfortably. She never remarries from what they say. He's like always on the hook for her.
Yeah.
But you're never led to believe that she's keeping him on the hook.
No.
And it's kind of implied that he's keeping her like tied up. But it's never like, you never feel her side of things.
This movie needed, this is a great, do you guys teach point of view in elementary? Or is
Yeah.
that like, okay, this, you're omniscient, you're limited, right? Like, this movie is like too limited on Napoleon. Like you said, this could have been Josephine's story. Like, you could, I would even meet you halfway. Like, this movie could have just spent a bit more time, like, focusing on her point of view. And you really don't, like, her point of view is almost exclusively given to us through Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a disservice because, like, the movie insists on bringing her to the forefront, but you never feel what she's thinking, why she does what she does.
And that's why it's so frustrating. Yeah. Because there's a few things that you could have done here to make this movie significantly more entertaining and more captivating.
I also don't think that, like, this might actually sound a bit like a Republican take because, like, there's, like, you have these weird, like, battle nerds who are very upset when anything about war isn't exclusively, like, talking about, like, the battles or, like, the types of guns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll get mad at history classes. Like, why aren't we learning the tactics?
And we say, fuck you to those
like,
kids.
shut the fuck up, right? But, like, I feel that there was a better story here that could have focused on the war stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I'm picking for the easy fruit, but, like, if this was your best Josephine story, it didn't land.
But here's the thing, to your point, I'm not saying you're wrong. Yeah. I'm actually, if anything, I'm saying you're kind of right.
Yeah.
That this movie should have picked something to focus on.
Yeah.
This movie wants to focus on the battles, the tactics, Napoleon, and Josephine.
Yeah.
But the problem is it doesn't hone in on any of them.
And then at the end,
everything feels superficial.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for a 3-hour-long, $200 million movie, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, why am I sitting here for this long? The problem with Napoleon is I feel like Napoleon, like a story of someone as big as Napoleon,
right,
should be a 3-hour-long movie.
Yeah.
Should be.
It should be an epic.
It should be an epic.
Right.
But nothing in this movie made me feel like I was watching an epic.
No.
It made me feel like I could have gotten the gist in 2 hours.
I would rather watch The Patriot.
Yeah.
Which isn't even based on, like, it's highly fictionalized.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's focused. That's the problem. You have a very strong character in Mel Gibson's character. Yeah. And then when you kind of take the scope out and show like some of the big scale things,
right?
You still feel that connection to. I keep on forgetting his character's name, by the way, in Patriot. I've only seen it like a handful of times.
Yeah.
But like you feel the agency for his character because of everything happening around him.
Yep.
But in this movie, you don't feel that at all because you're like, well, I know he's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Historically speaking, I'm just waiting to see how this is going to go right or wrong. But you never feel any sort of suspense.
Another angle, I think this movie was also in lack of an antagonist.
Yeah.
And like I'm trying to think of like.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
Or
a foil.
If you had made, if you wanted to make Josephine this like, kind of like, conniving figure in the background who's like, kind of dragging Napoleon along, stringing him along,
or even the unsung hero,
or something, right? But there isn't any.
No.
And it just makes it made this movie feel aggressively mid. I wouldn't say it's a bad movie because it's shot very well. It's acted well.
I like the lake scene.
The lake scene was awesome.
The brutality of like the corpses just melting into like cloudy blood and icy water is beautiful.
It's visually very, very well done.
Yeah.
I think the setup for it is kind of cool that you're not really sure what they're doing. You see them like in the tree line.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you watch the trailer, you know what's coming.
Right.
I kind of wish that was saved.
Yeah.
But I think they needed something flashy to draw people in.
Which is, I think that's the thing that drew me in. Like, I think that's what drew me in from the trailer.
Yeah, it's the best scene from the trailer. It's also the best scene in the movie, I think. But the problem is then you're watching the movie and it all plays it like what's going on, like are they actually being surrounded? But you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I feel like it kind of takes the wind out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
But seeing the actual scene play out was kind of cool because like they set the trap for them. They don't lure them to the lake per se. They lure them to like this settlement on the side of the lake.
Right.
And then when they think they're all hoity-toity,
Yeah.
then they come from the sides and start
Bombardment.
bombarding them, and that's where the chaos and this the ice comes into play, which is really cool to see. But it's one scene.
I do like their much better version of the Boston Massacre when he crushes the Royalist rebellion.
Yeah,
And like the people are coming up and they just like fucking bring the cannons. He's like,
huh?
yeah, and I'm like, damn.
And the thing
Yeah.
I did like about that scene is he doesn't feel like he's conflicted at all.
No,
He's like, it's Tuesday.
it's Tuesday.
Let's go.
Yeah,
And that shit dissolves mighty quick.
yeah.
I did like
Cannons
that
are
scene.
brutal.
Cannons are brutal.
We lose sight of that in this day and age.
I think yes.
Yeah.
I like pirate stuff. I know we've talked about piratey stuff recently. Like, what the hell did we watch this year that was piratey?
I don't know, but we should watch Pirates 1 at some point to review it.
Good stuff, by
Yeah.
the way. But like, I know this is a bad comparison. Like, I play Sea of Thieves a lot with Katie.
Right.
It's a pirate game, and when you're manning the cannons, like it feels cartoony, but when you get hit with a cannonball, it shoots your ass like almost off your boat.
Excellent.
That
They're big.
like that amount of force
It's a lot.
stopping, and then like all the wood flying, like it's
Yeah.
going to pepper you.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it does a good job of like when that cannonball hits, like you ain't got no leg anymore. Like that leg is in
Gone.
2 pieces.
Yep.
Um,
You are mush.
you are mush. So I do think it does a solid job of that. It is weirdly violent.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not
Which
saying,
it
like,
should be.
It should be because
Right.
it's war.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it kind of like sometimes like sneaks up on you a bit.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, oh, this guy's like bodies have gone.
Yeah.
I don't love the relationship between Josephine and Napoleon as it is because like from the very beginning almost like you feel like he is such a sucker.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like she ever woos him. He just feels like this weird, awkward, like little boy.
She showed up busty to a dance at some point.
She does, but
Yeah.
I don't think she does it with the intent of like wooing him particularly.
I think she's doing it with the intent to woo.
To woo,
Yes.
but not him in particular.
Yeah, I would not say they have chemistry.
No.
Yeah.
That's the thing about this dynamic. There is such a lack of, and he's got no riz.
No.
Like that scene where he's like walking up to her, and she's like, "What are you looking at? Why are you looking at me?" He's like, "I'm not looking at you." He's like, "Yes, you are." I was like, "We're looking at your face." God,
Which
I cringed.
could work. I mean, that could work, I feel like, if you got more from Josephine's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're looking to levy this critique at Napoleon as being this, like, historically lauded incel, then I feel like you need his interlocutor's perspective to, like, say, like, yeah, fuck him, like, this fucking weird-ass guy. But when you just get his perspective, it feels like the Joker. Or just, like, kind of bleh.
They're telling you almost to feel bad for him without really giving you a big reason to feel bad for him.
I don't think they're telling you to feel bad for him. I think they're telling you to be critical of him. I just don't think the force and the direction of the critique is clear enough for it to make the film really shine.
Yeah. I thought it was really funny after their wedding. Like, they're sitting at opposite ends of the table, which, first of all, bad vibes right away.
Yeah.
And then she's, like, openly flirting with this dude. And I looked at you and I go, damn, first night?
Well, and that's the thing with this movie, and it had to have been intentional, but, like, the choice to just make time fly
Yeah.
with...
But that was intended to be the same night, because I'm pretty sure they're wearing the same clothing.
It probably was, but, like, things... I mean, I don't know. I'm not a historian, so I don't know if their first night together was as frosty as Ridley Scott would make us believe, but like the way time works in this movie, just like to me, I found disorienting in a debilitating way.
Every once in a while, our best sense of time is there's like little cards that pop up and it's like whatever this date is in like the late 1700s
There's
or the early 1800s.
There's two that happen without any dialogue in between.
Yes.
And I'm like, what was the like this? Why? And already people are like talking about how they're excited for the director's cut of this movie.
No.
And apparently it's 4 hours.
Oh.
And I just like, I liked the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, right? But like, can we not, Ridley Scott, like, can you just give us the movie in theaters and make it fine?
Yeah.
Like,
and here's the thing, I don't feel like this movie gets better with an extra hour.
Have you seen Kingdom of Heaven? And then
I've only seen the original Kingdom of Heaven.
Okay. I saw it when I was in like middle school.
That's the one with Orlando Bloom.
With Orlando Bloom,
right? Yeah.
Right? And like, I didn't remember much of it, right? From what I gathered from the critiques, people thought it was confusing. And then people were like, the director's cut is actually really good because it has like missing scenes that make the movie not confusing.
I guess.
And I watched the director's cut and I liked it. It was long. I watched it over the course of like 3 days because it was like, it's a long movie. But I didn't feel confused.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see this being a situation like that. But then once again, why? Why does the Napoleon movie have to feel confusing?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like if your movie needs 4 hours, just make a series.
And that's what I was thinking too. I was wondering maybe this subject is just too big for a movie.
There's a reason why like there's a lot of things happening right now with like Netflix and Apple TV where like you are getting these like docu-series.
Yeah.
I feel like that's, or even a drama series, right? Like I just feel like there's certain things that I think work best in that format. A full movie telling you about like the battles and the tactics of like one of France's biggest like people, right?
I mean, John Adams got a fucking series.
John Adams, and it's great.
Yeah,
the John Adams series is great.
Yeah,
and it's just because it has the proper time to like flesh things out.
Yeah, it can meander.
It can
right.
I don't even say like meander, but like it can take its appropriate time where it needs it. Where I feel like this movie kind of doesn't because it tries to like have it both ways.
Right.
And it does not.
Does not work.
It does not work. It doesn't focus enough on Napoleon as a person. It does not focus enough on like his triumphs as like a tactician.
Right.
It doesn't even focus enough on him as like a lover for this. Again, like you said, like she is in the fucking synopsis.
Yeah.
Like it makes it feel like it wants you to like really care about this dynamic, and there is nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like we're beating a dead horse here, but goddamn, like if the movie's 3 hours, it needs substance.
We are also some of the more critical voices I've heard on this movie.
But I think it's like you said, I think it's because we've had time to kind of be prepared for this movie to be aggressively mid.
Right.
So we're a little bit more nitpicky.
Yeah.
Than if we had seen it and like we had not been tainted.
Or maybe them first 5 minutes were just really
I seriously doubt it.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
But again, if the first 10 minutes are the thing
that makes or breaks
your movie.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, all right.
Infinity War.
You're gonna hate this. No.
Okay.
Oh well, maybe too.
Yeah.
But you're watching John Wick 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You take out 10 minutes of that movie. You take out the dragon breath scene.
Oh. Still a great movie.
The movie is still fucking great because you have compelling characters.
Maybe not 5 stars without
maybe
the dragon
not,
breath.
but still at least 4.
Yeah, yeah.
4. I mean, the staircase scene is still fantastic.
Yep. Yeah.
10 minutes of a movie should not make or break your movie.
And if you take out the opening scene in Infinity War and you don't get to see...
Infinity War or
Infinity War.
Endgame?
If you don't get to see Thanos beating the shit out of Hulk I do think you're losing something, but I still think there's enough there where you're like, I get
see what
I
you
get
mean.
the movie.
But yeah,
right?
there's enough elsewhere in the movie to show you how much of a menace he can be.
Exactly.
I think it's the best example of him being
This is his power level.
absolutely,
Yeah.
like this is a force to be reckoned with,
Yeah.
right? This movie does not do that enough. I think and again, it doesn't help that like he's played as so awkward half the time
Right.
that you're just kind of like, is he really as smart as like he thinks he is, or is this just like circumstantial where like he just happens to like made some good gambles?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of so awkward in this movie. Like any sex scene in this was weird.
Yeah, just
Bold choice, by the way.
aggressive doggy.
Aggressive doggy.
Yeah.
He feels like a chihuahua,
Right.
like humping away.
Which I think is intentional.
For sure.
I do think is intentional.
But again, this goes to my point. Does Ridley Scott hate Napoleon?
I think there's a good chance he does, and I think that there is a great Napoleon movie out there made by someone who hates Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think this is it.
No.
No.
Yeah. Is there anything in this movie that feels like a biggest kick in the nuts than hearing, "Hey, Napoleon, we're sending you to this island, and we're gonna give you like $2 million bucks."
Oh yeah.
And then he's like, "But my wife,
My wife.
my wife." And you're just like, "Dude, just stay." That's the dream.
There were some great lines in this movie, I will say. My destiny is this lamb chop. There was another one that we laughed at, and I could not remember it whatsoever. But it was
man.
before the lamb chop one.
Before the land chop
The
one.
English in their boats. When he's talking about the British, he's
Oh
like, you
my-
think you're so great
because you have boats. Some choice words. All right, this annoyed me, and I know people are like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's not that big of a deal. This movie does the Chernobyl BBC thing where like everybody speaks with a British accent.
I don't care.
I know people don't care. I know it's dumb to be like, I'm expecting to be like, oh, wee, right?
Yeah.
But this movie, so in Chernobyl, it all takes place in Chernobyl.
Right.
So you know that everybody is at least from the same general area.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Ukrainian.
Everybody's Ukrainian, right? Whereas here, there are so many interactions with people from England, people from Austria, people from like down in like Egypt,
Russia. France.
and everybody sounds the same.
Yeah.
So then they're like, I'm like, who the fuck is this? Is this another French person?
Right.
Or is this a British person?
Right.
So that's the only thing where like I understand the need for just to make it simple and everybody just speaks like this.
Yeah.
But my simple monkey brain goes, I need to know who is who, because they don't always tell you who is who and where they're from. I think an accent is a very like simple way for you to be like, this is somebody else.
Here's my take on this. And I'll acknowledge both sides.
Mm-hmm.
This whole like British accent debate thing has gone on for quite a long time. The first time I was made aware of it is when our crazy ass Spanish teacher, R.I.P. Senora McIntyre from West Aurora High School.
She died?
No.
Oh.
No. She showed us El Cid, which is about El Héroe Nacional de España, starring Charlton Heston. And then it's a movie that takes place in Spain. He's a Spanish knight. And then she asked our class, and it was kind of weird because it was like a cool like social commentary, critical thinking question, and he's trying to open up his can of static water. Anyway, so she's like, why are they making all the bad people with British accents? And it was a cool question because it got me to think. It was the first time I really like realized that. But I was also like, lady, we have never had like a real world conversation in this class. This class has all been like you trying and not succeeding in teaching us Spanish. So this came out of nowhere. But I was like, oh, that's a good point. And then I realized there's a lot of social justice conversations about like British people and the British voice and how that's like, you know, whitewashed, you know, people from all over the globe. So my point to this movie is it's not the first to do this, so that's why I wasn't upset. But I think you would make a point about practicality, which I think is fair.
Mhm.
I think, though, if Ridley Scott wanted to be more ambitious, couldn't he be like one of the first to say, like, I'm going to give you like an Oscar bait period piece? And look, the Russians are going to be speaking with a Russian accent. The French people are going to be speaking with a French accent. I think that would have, I think that would have made the movie more memorable. And it may have even like given it like a half a star extra in my book. Because all the period pieces do this. All the period pieces do make everyone British.
Do they?
A lot of, yeah.
Maybe I don't watch enough.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think what other movie I've seen that is this egregious about it. And I can't quite point one out right now.
I think Amadeus. I think in Amadeus they're all British. I could be wrong.
But is that movie where everybody's primarily British?
No, they're not. I mean, in Amadeus, it's about Mozart.
I guess.
But like, I mean, it's common to do it.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I don't like blame Ridley Scott too much because like, you know, he's not the first. But at the same point, I'm like, okay, missed opportunity. You could have added some color to this movie, which we didn't talk about at all. But like, this movie suffers from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Excuse me, color palette, cinematography.
It does. It really does.
I hate it.
It's so blue.
I hate it.
It's so blue.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So my point with that is, I almost kind of wish or prefer if they had just been like, we're making a movie with subtitles.
That would have been unique.
Everybody is speaking
their language.
If they're French, they're speaking French.
Yep.
If they're speaking...
If they have to speak to somebody else, right?
Then they will speak...
the language that is necessary for that interaction.
Right? And maybe they have an accent in that case, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, to me, I don't know, it's something that like, I know it shouldn't take me out of it too much, but it snaps me out of like the immersion of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't help. I think if the movie was better, I wouldn't be hitting this so hard and it wouldn't distract me so much. But it's just like, there's a scene where he's talking to the guy from Austria, I think.
Yep.
And I'm like, is he supposed to be another French person? Is he talking to someone from England?
There's a scene where an English person is talking to the Austrian, and it did make it kind of hard to tell.
So there's something about it where I'm just like, it's harder to suspend disbelief.
Right.
It's harder to keep track of characters, because there's a lot of characters in this.
Yeah.
It's harder to keep track of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels weird.
Yeah.
But not the biggest issue.
I think this movie, I don't think this movie has ever registered to people as Oscar bait, which like on paper it very much could be.
It was not nominated for anything at the Golden Globes.
But I don't think like I said earlier, I think like you and I are more down on this movie than most people are. But I don't think anybody is that high on this movie, or like there's even been a buzz of like this movie's trying to be Oscar bait. I don't even think it's in that conversation.
Here's the thing. Oscar bait movies are generally pretty blanketly liked.
But then you get the ones that you're like, this is trying to be Oscar bait, and it's clearly not. I don't even think this movie's in that category.
You don't think it's trying to be Oscar bait?
I think it is, but I don't think that's registering with people.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is this movie is trying to be Oscar bait, but it just missed the mark.
It missed the mark so much.
Yes.
That like I haven't seen Imitation Game. Imitation Game is very much Oscar bait.
Yes.
People like, you know, the reaction to it was like, this is fine, but like we can tell that this movie's fucking trying, and like this movie is not that great, right? But this is like a textbook Oscar bait movie. Mm-hmm. I think this movie is an Oscar bait movie, but it's so mid that like people are forgetting that it's an Oscar bait movie and it's just a movie.
You know what's amazing about this movie? 58% Rotten Tomatoes from critics. What do you think the audience score is?
Higher or lower?
I'm not going to say.
75.
58%.
Wow. Okay.
So both critics and audiences are like, this movie is mid.
The bridge broke and shattered in every direction. That means your weight was equally distributed.
This movie is mid.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. Like there were so many choices made in this movie that makes it feel discombobulated, and you can tell that it's just not hitting with everybody.
Yeah.
And like the buzz on this movie petered out.
Yeah.
Like we did we
This was a Thanksgiving week release.
Thanksgiving and it didn't make a huge splash.
Yeah.
It's again, we had the discussion when we talked about Godzilla about like these massive budget movies from like these auteurs and these like super renowned directors, and they're not hitting the mark.
And that's a product of the time, but like, damn.
Yeah. I want to say Godzilla did better in the box office this weekend than Napoleon did.
What did we say walking out that Godzilla did a better job of? Maybe was showing the horrors of war. Godzilla did a better job of showing the horrors of war than this movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. Godzilla did everything better than this.
Yeah, technically that's not explicitly a war movie.
No, but
only on subtext. Only on subtext.
I mean, just the like everything from the emotion to like showing you like the consequence of like everything going on, like the human element.
Yeah.
Everything in Godzilla, I think, is made
much better
than this. Yeah. And they're drastically different movies.
Can we say something on Joaquin?
That he's mid?
Maybe I won't go that far. I don't dislike Joaquin.
I don't either.
I also don't have the love for Joaquin that a lot of people do.
Yes.
But her, Joker, this movie,
You're sensing a pattern here?
I don't like the pattern that I'm seeing.
Very much peak incel behavior. Yeah. I haven't seen Beau is Afraid.
Yeah.
That's a movie that depending on what time I get home tomorrow, I might rent it because Katie's out of town.
You're about to have some time on your hands.
I got 3 hours to burn.
Yeah.
Right? I'm having a dinner with coworkers tomorrow. Nice. So like I might be home at like 7.
Yeah.
So like if I have the time, I'm gonna try to watch the 3-hour Joaquin Phoenix horror like abstract movie.
He could be an incel in that movie.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to put your theory to the test.
Yeah.
He has a very like meh face, and I don't know if it's his goopy scar. I don't know if that like detracts me so much.
Yeah.
But he's definitely like Joker and her are very, very incel movies.
Yep.
And this movie, God.
This movie's an incel movie.
He gets cucked.
Yep.
Multiple times.
Yep.
Oh man. I don't like it. Anyway, so this we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here. Unless there's anything you want to add.
I think that's it. I think it was very efficient. I think that was more efficient than the movie.
Yeah. Is there a historical figure that you think could get the Napoleon treatment that should in like current day?
Rephrase the question.
So, is there a historical figure?
Yeah.
Like your Alexander the Great, your Attila the Huns, or whatever, who should get like a movie. 3-hour epic.
Yeah.
And hopefully done well.
So there was an Alexander movie that was not done well.
It was not done well.
Oliver Stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Do Caesar.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's the low-hanging fruit, but like,
I
think it's time.
I don't think we've gotten a Caesar movie.
No.
Right?
And there's multiple scenes where people reference him. Like,
that's why I was thinking about that. Because like they're like, he's our Caesar. He's our modern day, quote unquote, right? Modern day Caesar.
Yeah.
I was thinking that. I was like, what haven't we seen?
I can't remember what role he plays in the old Cleopatra movie. I know Mark Antony plays a role in that. But like, Caesar. Yeah.
Because like I feel like we've seen his like stuff a lot in like TV, in documentaries, but I cannot recall a movie focused solely on him. And I feel like he's got an arc.
Yeah.
That you end with
Et tu, Brute.
There you go.
Yeah. Don't do the Shakespeare play though.
No.
Please.
No.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm glad we're at least on the same page.
Yeah.
Because I do think there's a market for these things, and I think if done well, like you can have your Oscar bait, but then you can also have quality.
And we could also have more Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yes.
Excellent.
Ooh, how great would it have been if this movie
was Napoleon
starts out like such a straight-faced Napoleon movie.
And then became Napoleon.
And then you get to third act, and they get to Moscow.
Yeah.
And fucking like Sasquatches are there.
I'd love it. I'd love it.
We need more of that.
We need more.
We need more Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter style shit.
We absolutely do.
I would love that.
You know, the millions of fans can't see this at home. We're recording in my living room today, not my basement, and you are just so comfy and laid back on your couch. It feels like we're in one of them podcasts.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
If we had a camera, we'd have a 2-shot camera.
Yeah.
Here.
Bill Maher is going to be here to interrupt you every time you say something.
Well, because like there's no need to like take notes because there's nothing to take notes about in this movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm glad we got to talk about this.
Same.
It made me feel like I didn't waste 3 hours of my day.
No, it was oodles of fun.
I still had a good time watching it. I think it was entertaining enough.
Yes.
But it's far from what it should be.
Yeah.
But anyway, we will be back next week. I think I have a couple ideas of what we could watch.
And I have some ideas too.
So we will discuss those. But until next time, thank you all for watching and listening.
Yeah.
And please remember to like and share.
He has been Javier.
He has been Thano.
Bye.
This has been the Cine-Scoots podcast. Bye.
Bye.